Welcome to this episode of the People Dividend. I'm your host, Mike Horne, and I am absolutely delighted to have in our virtual studio today the energizer of corporate culture, and that is Joel Zeff. He's a humorist, an author, and he is on a mission to inspire leaders to invest in joy. And he is going to make just a fabulous guest for everyone in the audience today. And I know this is going to be an episode that you are going to want to share. Joel brings more than 25 years of experience using humor and improv to talk about change and teamwork and culture and leadership. And these are all the topics that are so important for us in HR in 2025. And he is really motivated, Joel Zeff is, to leading a movement to get people to be motivated to do their best and talk about the importance of fun at work. He's consulted to a lot of big companies, Walmart, Wells Fargo, Pepsi, and has a message for all of us. And I'm so looking forward to talking about support and wins and staying in the game today with Joel Zeff. Joel, welcome to the People Dividend podcast. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate it. And thank you for the excellent introduction. I have been speaking for more than 25 years as a keynote speaker, and I'm all about fun and energy. I think that's the best way to learn. And through fun and energy, we talk about teamwork and leadership, the choices that we make to be successful, of creating opportunity and positive support for each other, and be embracing change, staying in the game, being more present in the moment. And I do that through fun and laughter. And I use improv as my tool, kind of my visual tool to engage with the audience and talk about these great messages.
And say some more about that. What does that mean? What does that mean about how you engage people through this humor and improv?
So I started doing improv in the early 90s, a long time.
Right.
And it was a passion. I found it. And it was kind of like the movies, where the main character and the music, all of a sudden the music goes, ah, and the light kind of shines on him. That's what improv was for me. And I immediately loved it. And it gave me a lot. It taught me a lot. I joined a group that had its own theater in Dallas. That's where I live. And performed 4 shows a week and corporate shows and this energy, this fun, this excitement, this freedom, this creativity. And it was all in improv. And so I found my way. I was doing PR, and one of my clients was Texas Instruments, and they were having an executive retreat. And they said, "We know you do improv on the weekends. Can you do some of that with us before our retreat?" And that's how it started. And then more clients would call, and I would focus on what improv meant to me, what it taught me about teamwork and leadership and communication and change. And I started talking about those messages. And my clients really, really grabbed onto it. It really engaged them. And that improv, let me give you an example. For those, maybe some of your audience, I hope they've seen an improv show. There's no script. There's no rehearsal. There's no plan. Everything's happening right there. And I use these short form exercises. For instance, one game is I'll bring 3 audience volunteers to the stage. I assign each one an emotion. One person is a driver. We're going to take a road trip. And as each performer comes into the car, everybody takes on their emotion. So if anger starts and happy comes in, then both people are happy and they're like, "Oh, this is awesome." And then the third person is sad and they're, all 3 people are sad. And the fourth person may be scared and all 4 are scared. So lots of fun, creates lots of energy. And then we kind of peel back the onion, talk about the choices that these performers are making and what we can learn and how we work together as a team and how we lead and how we embrace change.
Yes, I've often discovered that in working with executive teams, the more that I bring something that is unusual to them, because typically they're around some sort of conference table, whether it's a virtual conference table or a physical conference table, and they're engaged in some sort of discourse or dialogue or discussion. So often in the work that I've done with executive teams, I might have them drawing with chalk, or I might have them watching a film about dance, uh, or have them using some sort of electric device outside. Something that jolts uh, their experience, and I assume that's the same about what happens with improv. I mean, having worked with some improv and having worked with some musicians to engage groups and people, I think many of these practices that we use as facilitators, people wanting to help a client create change, are those which get people out of their chairs in some sort of metaphorical or literal way.
Yeah, it's engaging. It's unique. And so what the improv does is first, it's a different situation. So it's unique. So already the audience is going to be engaged. And now when they're having fun and they're laughing, they're going to be more open to the message. And now they're going to associate a memory because they're laughing, they're having fun. And it's just like a great song. We're going to associate that memory with that great song. When we're laughing, having fun, we're going to associate what's happening in that moment. And so if we're talking about these key messages, we're going to connect that with this memory of having fun and laughing. So the audience is going to retain the message more. So they're more open, they're more engaged, and they're going to retain. And that play is what improv is all about. Improv was originally designed as an education tool at NYU in the late 30s, early 40s by a woman named Viola Spolin. And she created improv to teach her students. And she felt like if you play, you're your authentic, true self,
Mm.
right? You take away some of those barriers, some of those fears. And all of a sudden you're just playing, you're just having fun. And that's when the learning really happened, and effective learning.
So interesting to think about origins of our work. By some sort of professional bias in organization development and executive development, I follow in the footsteps of the social psychologist Kurt Lewin, who was around much, later in the 40s with experiments in group dynamics. And I think that all comes into play with improv, and it's so great to see that. So let's talk about your new book, though, Joel Zeff, and Make the Right Choice.
Yeah, the book is a love letter to my keynotes and a love letter to improvisation. So it follows the messages that I talk about in my keynote in much greater detail. And each chapter is packed with ideas, things that I've learned on my journey from different companies. So when I talk about positive support and appreciation, what I want to see is, I want some tips, some ideas that I put in the chapter for the reader to utilize in their own work environment to create a great work culture. And so it's engaging and fun. I wanted people to smile and laugh about some of the silliness about corporate life. For instance, one chapter I talk about just the kind of the craziness of scheduling a conference call and all of that goes around in that effort. And so I want to tell fun stories, want it to be engaging, and but really hit these powerful messages about change and opportunity and positive support, being present in the moment, staying in the game, how we communicate effectively, what improv taught me about being more creative, how we work together as as a great leader. And so each chapter is very self-contained and with lots of messages, lots of great ideas, and hopefully lots of fun.
There's a lot of fluctuation in the economy and the job market. Engagement is returning to record lows in the United States, employee engagement. What does it mean to stay in the game at this point?
Stay in the game to me is when we have a goal, we want something, right? We're going to have to stay in the game. If we quit, and that's the only thing you can't do in improvisation, in a game, you can't quit. You can be loud, you can be quiet, you can make mistakes, you might not even be funny. The game still works. The game won't work if you quit. So let's take that to our work. What does stay in the game mean? In improv, stay in the game means we're not going to give up. We're going to stay in the process. We're going to find a way. We're going to find our success. When we talk about work, what does stay in the game mean? Might mean we have to learn something new, get out of our comfort zone. We might have to find a mentor. We might have to come up with a new way to communicate to that customer. There is a process to stay in the game, but the end result is success, and it's going to be there. Might not be there tomorrow, might not be there next week, but if you stay in the game, success is there. If you quit, what happens? We fail. It's over. There's no success. But you stay in the game, success is still a possibility, is still there. But you have to make choices, and it's hard, but it's also very fulfilling.
I get it. That's a great outcome from or a guidepost or a guideline from improv is to stay in the game, to
Right.
engage in that moment. And I guess, thinking about the contemporaneity of improv against the background, against the foreground of whatever the business issues are, the team issues are. Can you talk a little bit about how improv acts as background and foreground for problem solving?
Improv, to me, is about building confidence and creating some freedom, right? Because in improv, there's choices. And if we're making it up, if there's no script, there's no rehearsal, we can't say there's a wrong choice. Now, there's going to be a right choice. There's going to be choices that are better than others. So it gives us a little bit of a freedom because we can make mistakes within improv. And also, we're all working in a team environment and we're equals. And that also kind of provides an equality. And what that does, I think, is gives value to everybody's opinion, gives value to everybody's participation. And when that happens, I hope positive support and appreciation is an ingredient. And that's going to start to build that confidence. And then when that confidence happens, all of a sudden we got this magic mixture that's going to turn into results.
Sometimes I've had a few giant failures in my interventions, working with teams and client groups, and part of it is having resilience, seeing what you can learn, getting back up, being willing to reassess, to rethink, reframe, to do things differently. Does improv carry any of those risks, or how do you assess those?
I think, again, the only thing you can't do is quit.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's where failure happens. If you say, I can't do this, and you quit, but we're trying to create a foundation so that doesn't happen. And that foundation is creating opportunity. I'm giving the opportunity for the team to be creative, to be supportive, to work together as a team, to focus and take responsibility and take ownership. That's going to be a huge part of success. Then the second part that makes it work is the positive support. When I bring audience volunteers to the stage, the audience, they do something, the audience is going to laugh, they're going to applaud. And that positive support energizes them. And what do? They will produce more. If they receive positive support, they're going to produce more. They're going to take more risks. They're going to put themselves out there and try something different. And then the audience will respond, give them positive support. It's going to come back. And now they're going to do more. So the chemistry there is opportunity and positive support. And that's what we all want out of our jobs. For your listeners and viewers, whether they're C-suite, management, entry level, we all want opportunity and we all want positive support. Unfortunately, those are the two things we don't receive enough of. And if we don't receive that opportunity and positive support, we're not going to be very happy. And if we're not very happy, how can we be successful? Right? We just turn into bye-bye people. And we all know bye-bye people. They walk among us. They could care less. Call customer service. 9 out of 10 times, that's going to be a bye-bye person.
And we need certainly to erode that kind of service, that type of orientation. So what are some of the situations where people might use improv to help them with certain organizational issues or challenges or people and culture topics?
When I speak at these events, and I've done more than 2,500, I'm using improv as a tool to kind of show some of these choices that we make to find success. And, I want them to grab hold of that opportunity and positive support because that makes improv successful. I want them to grab hold of being more present. When I ask someone in an improv exercise, what were you thinking about? Well, I was thinking about the game, the objective, my team. Okay. And now when I'm talking to you, what are you thinking about? Well, I'm thinking about my email. I'm thinking about lunch. I'm thinking about, what I'm going to do this afternoon. Okay. So what improv has done is it's forced you to be present in the moment. And that's when you're at your best as a
Mm.
teammate, as a leader, as a communicator. So that's another message I want my audience to think about what improv teaches us, to spend more time being present and in the moment. And I think the best thing improv taught, and what I think my audience can take away, is what it teaches us about change and disruption. How we have to embrace change, not be afraid of change, be prepared for change, and be more open and flexible. And I talk about that in several chapters in the book, is how improv teaches us to be successful during change and disruption.
What might be like 3 or 5 of the main points in that regard?
Well, one is to be prepared for change. When I ask an audience volunteer to come up on stage, they have made a choice. Their first choice is they're prepared. They don't know what I'm going to ask them to do. They don't know what game I'm going to play or what their role or responsibility is going to be. But they made the choice to be prepared. And what does that do? It sets their tone, their attitude. They have a good attitude. They have a good tone. They have good energy, a good approach. And that's going to overcome a lot because they're not going to get frustrated or impatient because they're prepared for change. How often does change make us frustrated and impatient because we're not prepared for it?
Mm.
So that's, I would say, number one. Number two is improv teaches us to be open and flexible. When the game really works, somebody has an idea, somebody builds on that idea, there's an openness and flexibility. They might not do what I think they're going to do or what I would expect them to do, but I have to be open and flexible. One of the games I play, it's called Know It All, and the audience asks 3 people a question, and those 3 people can only say one word at a time. So they have to create a sentence one word at a time. You have no idea what word's coming before, what word's coming after. So they have to create a sentence that makes sense. So they have to be open and flexible to whatever word's coming at them, react to it, build on it, and keep it going because they don't have, remember, there's 2 other people on their team. They can't do everything themselves. So it's a 3-person team. Each doesn't know what the other person is going to do, but they have to be open and flexible to their answers so that the whole team can be successful.
That's great. And how do people learn about this and make the right choice?
So in each chapter, I kind of break down one of these messages, right? So one chapter might be about opportunity, one chapter about positive support, and we talk about change in a chapter. And so I talk about really kind of in great detail the message, what improv taught me, what we can learn, telling a few stories about some of the games that I just mentioned, and then some of the ideas, some ideas to utilize that in their workspace, in their work, in their culture, and to help them embrace change or help them be a better communicator or help be a better teammate or a better leader.
Wow, that's great, Joel Zeff. What about improv in the virtual environment?
That's a good question. Obviously, during the pandemic, right, everything was virtual, and it was a lot of trial and error. It was a lot of trial and error of what works in the virtual environment, and finding ways to engage with the audience virtually that they can do just in their office or wherever they are looking at their laptop or computer. And so we found a lot of different ways, and again, trial and error. And but it's about engagement, still about fun, and still about talking about these messages and how powerful they are.
And when you think about improv, do you think about it more as an individual expression, a team expression, something that happens in an interpersonal dynamic, some sort of tandem or trioed relationship?
I think it's both, because there's individual within a team environment. So each individual is responsible for their choices. And those choices are going to affect the team. So in the improv game, one of my favorite messages that improv taught me, and it's always an individual choice, but it affects the whole team. How do I help the people around me be successful? Most people say, how does improv work? There's no script, there's no rehearsal. How are you guys working together, coming up with all these ideas seamlessly, making it work, making it funny, making it creative? And the answer is, I'm not trying to be the best. I'm not trying to be a star. I'm not trying to be the funniest. I'm not trying to be the leader. What I'm doing is, as a leader, I'm thinking, how can I help my team be successful? What do I need to do so they find success? So you answer that question. More importantly, you act on it. And so I tell, when I speak, we could talk all day about teamwork and leadership. Here's in a few seconds everything that improv taught me. Ask that question: how do I help the people around me be successful? That's an individual choice, but you're thinking about it in the team environment. You answer it, and more importantly, you act on it. And when you send it out there, it's going to come back. It's going to come back to you.
Yes, so true, I think. And Joel, if you were to leave our audience with one or two ideas or actions that stem from your work and your observations and your insights that are captured in Make the Right Choice, what would those be? And how would people get in touch with you if they wanted to continue a conversation?
Sure. Here's my two tips. Number one is, every day when you go home from work, think about all the people that you had contact with, your customers, your team, your partners, your vendors. Did you give positive support to those people? Did you appreciate them? Because that's the foundation for everything that we're talking about. And if you didn't, then tomorrow, because we thought about it on the way home, so tomorrow, text, email, see them in the hall, call them up. I don't care. Give out that positive support, that appreciation, because that's our fuel. That's our energy. That's what creates that passion. And if we don't have that fuel, we're not going to have that passion. And it's up to us as individuals to give that, especially the leaders, right? To give that positive support and that appreciation. And then the second thing is, what is it that's going to make you happy and fulfilled? Ask yourself. It's not more money. We all want more money. That's a given. What is it that's going to fulfill us? Do we want a different role? Do you want a different responsibility? Do you want more training? Do you want the opportunity to go to a conference? What is that opportunity? And you're going to be surprised by the answer. And then you go to your manager and you say, this is what I need to be happy and fulfilled. And you're going to be surprised how easy it is for them to give you that opportunity, because what do they get back in return? They get a passionate, energized team member that's going to help them reach their goals. If they don't give you that opportunity, that's a big clue. You're in the wrong place. Nothing wrong with that, but now you figured it out. But I promise someone across the street is going to want a passionate, energized team member, and they're going to want to give you opportunity. And then that's going to fulfill you and make you happy. The leaders, your job is to go to your team and ask them, what do you need from me? What opportunity can I give you that's going to make you happy and fulfilled? And again, you're going to be surprised by the answer and how easy it is to give that opportunity. As far as getting in touch with me.
Thank you for those two tips. Yes.
Oh.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you.
No, continue.
Yeah. I was going to say, well, you put it all in one question.
Yes.
And so my website, very easy to find me, joelzeff.com, JOELZEFF.com, and LinkedIn on the social media or Facebook. And the book is available, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or wherever you buy your books.
That's great. We'll have all of that in the show notes. It's been so wonderful to be in conversation with Joel Zeff and learning about improv and its impact on leadership and organization development and people and culture, and to learn more about the choices we make and the right choices we make and the lessons he's learned through improv. So until the next episode of the People Dividend, stay well, and thank you, Joel Zeff.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it.